On a sweltering Thursday evening in one of Alabama's smallest cities, the police dispatch room sat in its usual quiet calm. The summer heat had been so intense that crime rates had dropped to nearly zero. Most residents stayed locked inside their air-conditioned homes, unwilling to brave the oppressive temperatures. Officers Lisa Carter and her partner Jake Benedict were working the night shift, expecting another uneventful evening. Little did they know that one innocent phone call was about to change multiple lives forever. At exactly 9:47 p.m., the silence was broken by the shrill ring of the emergency line. Lisa picked up the phone, ready for the usual late-night disturbance call. 911, what's your emergency? What she heard next stopped her cold. Hello, can you please bring me a Happy Meal? The voice was small, young, and completely innocent. Lisa paused, thinking it might be a prank call or a child who had accidentally dialed the wrong number. Hi, sweetie, I think you might have the wrong number. Are your mom or dad there? Can I talk to them? But the child's response sent chills down her spine. They can't come to the phone. They're sleeping and won't wake up. I'm just really hungry. Can you please bring me some food? The boy's voice began to tremble, and Lisa could hear him starting to cry softly. Lisa Carter had been a 911 dispatcher for over 8 years. She'd handled countless calls, but something about this one felt different. Her instincts told her this wasn't just a confused child making a silly mistake. Children often call for help in ways adults don't expect. They might not understand the full situation they're in, but they know something is wrong. Okay, sweetheart, don't worry. I'm going to help you. What's your name? Jack. My name is Jack, and I'm 6 years old. Jack, that's a great name. I need you to stay on the phone with me, okay? Don't hang up. While keeping Jack talking, Lisa quickly traced the call. The address that came up made her heart sink. It was in one of the poorest neighborhoods in the city, an area known for drug problems and neglected children. Without hesitation, she radioed for backup. Units 23 and 15, I need you to respond to 1247 Maple Street immediately. Possible child in danger. Approach with caution. Officers Grace Martinez and Tom Benedict received the call and headed toward the address. Grace, a veteran officer and mother of 2, felt her stomach tighten with worry. You think it's serious? Benedict asked as they drove through the darkened streets. Lisa doesn't send us out on child calls unless she's really concerned, Grace replied. And from that neighborhood? We need to be prepared for anything. When they arrived at the address, both officers immediately knew something was terribly wrong. The small house looked abandoned. The front door hung slightly open, and children's toys were scattered across the overgrown yard like forgotten memories. Alabama State Police, is anyone home? Grace called out as they approached the door. Silence. They entered cautiously, flashlights cutting through the darkness. The smell hit them first, stale air, unwashed dishes, and something else they couldn't quite identify. In the living room, they found 2 adults unconscious on a torn couch. Empty pill bottles and drug paraphernalia were scattered across the coffee table and floor. Benedict checked for pulses while Grace searched the rest of the house. They're alive, but barely, Benedict called out. We need paramedics here now. Grace found Jack hiding under a makeshift tent of blankets in a back bedroom. He was clutching an old cordless phone, his blue eyes wide with fear and confusion. Hi, Jack, Grace said softly, kneeling down to his level. My name is Officer Grace. I'm here to help you. The little boy looked up at her with a mixture of hope and terror. Are you the lady I talked to on the phone? Did you bring my Happy Meal? Grace's heart broke. Here was a 6-year-old child living in unimaginable conditions, and all he wanted was a simple meal. I'm going to make sure you get that Happy Meal, Jack, but first we need to get you somewhere safe, okay? Jack nodded and reached up to her. As Grace lifted him into her arms, she noticed how thin he was, how his clothes hung loose on his small frame. Within minutes, the quiet street was flooded with emergency vehicles. Paramedics rushed to treat Jack's parents while social services prepared to take temporary custody of the boy. As they loaded the unconscious adults into ambulances, neighbors began to emerge from their homes. Many had lived next door to this family for months, never knowing a child was in danger just feet away. Grace stayed with Jack throughout the entire process, keeping her promise about the happy meal. She sent Benedict to the nearest McDonald's while they waited for the social worker to arrive. When he returned with the familiar red box, Jack's face lit up for the first time that night. "Thank you," he whispered, clutching the happy meal like it was the most precious thing in the world. The investigation revealed the full scope of Jack's situation. His parents had been struggling with opioid addiction for over a year. There was no food in the house, utilities had been shut off, and Jack had been essentially caring for himself for weeks. The boy had learned to call 911 by watching cartoons, but in his 6-year-old mind, he thought it was a number you called when you needed help with anything, including getting food delivered. Child Protective Services determined that Jack had been living in these conditions for at least 2 months. Neighbors later admitted they had heard crying at night, but assumed it was just normal childhood tantrums. Jack was placed with the Morrison family, experienced foster parents who specialized in caring for children from traumatic situations. Sarah and David Morrison had fostered over 30 children in their 15 years of service. Jack was so polite and grateful for everything, Sarah Morrison recalled. He would thank us for every meal, every clean shirt, every bedtime story. It broke our hearts to think about what he'd been through. Officer Grace made good on her promise to visit regularly, always bringing a happy meal. It became their special tradition, a reminder of how they first met and a symbol of Jack's rescue. Jack's story spread throughout the small Alabama town like wildfire. Local news picked up the story, and soon people from neighboring cities were calling to ask how they could help. The community response was overwhelming. Donations poured in, not just for Jack, but for the local Children's Services Department. Local businesses organized fundraisers, and volunteers signed up to help with various child welfare programs. "I've never seen anything like it," said Maria Rodriguez, the county's Child Protective Services director. One little boy's courage to ask for help opened everyone's eyes to how many children in our community might be suffering in silence. Jack's parents, Michael and Jennifer, survived their overdoses and began the long road to recovery. The near loss of their son served as a wake-up call that finally motivated them to seek serious treatment. They entered a residential drug treatment program and began attending family counseling sessions. While they worked on their recovery, Jack continued to thrive in foster care. "Losing Jack, even temporarily, was the worst thing that ever happened to us," Jennifer later said. "But it was also what saved our lives. We realized we had to choose between drugs and our son." After 18 months of treatment, counseling, and supervised visits, Michael and Jennifer were deemed ready to regain custody of their son. The reunion took place at the Morrisons' home with Grace and several social workers present. Jack, now 7½, ran into his parents' arms. The family that had been broken by addiction was slowly beginning to heal. "It's going to take time," David Morrison explained to Jack before the reunion. "Your parents are learning how to take care of you the right way now. But you'll always have people who care about you." Jack's story led to significant changes in the community's approach to child welfare. The local police department implemented new training for dispatchers on recognizing calls from children in distress. Schools began teaching children about when and how to call for help, using age-appropriate materials that explained the difference between emergencies and non-emergencies. A new community program called Jack's Network was established, connecting neighbors and creating a support system for at-risk families before they reached crisis points. Today, Jack is a healthy, happy 10-year-old living with his parents in a new home across town. His parents celebrated 3 years of sobriety and have become advocates for other families struggling with addiction. Jack still loves happy meals, though now they're treats rather than desperate necessities. He's an honor roll student who wants to become a police officer when he grows up, like Officer Grace. The house where Jack was found has been torn down and replaced with a small park. A plaque there reads, "Sometimes the smallest voices carry the biggest messages. Listen." Jack's story reminds us that heroes come in all sizes, and sometimes a child's innocent request for help can spark changes that protect countless other children. It shows us the importance of listening, really listening, when someone asks for help, no matter how unusual the request might seem. In a world where it's easy to mind our own business and assume someone else will help, Jack's story challenges us to be the person who steps up, who pays attention, and who acts when a child is in need. Most importantly, it reminds us that behind every 911 call is a human being who needs help, and sometimes that human being is small, scared, and just asking for a happy meal. The next time you hear about a child making an unusual 911 call, remember Jack. Remember that children often ask for help in ways adults don't expect. Their requests might seem silly or inappropriate, but they might also be the bravest thing that child has ever done. Jack's call didn't just get him rescued, it opened an entire community's eyes to the children who might be suffering in silence all around us. His courage to pick up that phone and ask for help saved not only his own life, but potentially countless others. Sometimes the most important calls come from the smallest voices. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe for more inspiring true stories. And remember, if you ever suspect a child might be in danger, don't hesitate to call for help. You might just save a life.